All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. You are here for ZEscrow and law firms, how to sell and how it works. Just a housekeeping note to kick off the webinar. This webinar or service is best experienced on Google Chrome. If you have any problems with the audio or visual to the point that you feel like you need a fresh start, I would recommend restarting it on Google Chrome, and that should help you out. Great. Well, it looks like we have people from all over the country here today. I would love it if you would just chat to us where you are calling in from. Again, you're here for ZEscrow and law firms, how to sell and how it works. And my name is Katherine Ring. I'm the Chief Marketing and Culture Officer for ZSuite Technologies, and I'm joined today by Jill Feiler, who many of you know, our Chief Client Officer. And we've prepared a lot of content for you on who law firms are and how you can sell to them. So this is our brief agenda for the day. We are going to spend about 25 minutes on that content, and then Jill is going to jump into a demo for about 5 minutes on how ZEscrow works for law firms specifically and IOLTA accounts. And then we'll also have some time at the end, at least 10 minutes, if not more, for Q&A. But if you do have questions over the course of the content, please put those into the chat as well, and we will do our best to answer them as we go. Looks like we have people calling in from Colorado, Nebraska, Louisiana. I love it. Oh, somebody from Austin, where I am too, Cranston, Rhode Island, New Jersey. So this is pretty fun. Great. Well, for our first section here, I'm going to turn it over to Jill. Take it away.
Thanks, Katherine. So the first part of this discussion, we want to talk about why law firms make great clients. So let's kick it off with the fact that obviously the deposits that these law firms are bringing over are secure and very sticky deposits. If you want to go to the next slide, Katherine. So legal services and law firms often, as you all know, retain significant client funds, presenting you with all sorts of opportunities for sticky, low-cost core deposits, especially if you have the tools to drive those efficiencies for the firm, allowing them to concentrate their energies on many other things. So here's what we know and have experienced at ZSuite in terms of growth in this segment. So annually, we have seen a 137% increase year over year in new attorneys utilizing the ZEscrow platform for general escrow, and 134% gain in attorneys using it for IOLTA funds in particular. Now, also deposits have grown 60% in general escrow and 110% in the IOLTA segment. And so that kind of growth really tells us the need to utilize digital tools to manage those three-party accounts is really strong and valuable for this particular segment. This utilization translates to stable, long-lasting relationships with your bank. And we know, obviously, based on the years of banking experience in this room, that having those digital tools in place makes your clients' lives so much easier, and of course makes retention a breeze, which is what we always want, right? Retaining those clients is so much less expensive than going out and grabbing those new ones. So we've seen firsthand in the law vertical, where in the last 3 years where we've been in market, the only organizational churn that we've experienced is when another bank wins an RFP. And even in those cases, sometimes we'll see, well, they'll retain the IOLTA funds at the bank. Those funds will remain, even though the general escrow got another bank won those dollars via the RFP process. So some really good growth in the attorney segment, as well as just valuable insights into when we're utilizing digital tools, the retention factor goes way up. So additionally, as we're looking at other opportunities, deposits for law firms obviously is a big deal, but what other positive results translate from that volume? Of course, those core commercial deposits, but also those firms have large wire volume, which can lead to fee income, as well as large transaction volumes where you're implementing ACH or other types of payment vehicles, which could lead to the need for positive pay, and of course, increasing that fee income overall for the bank. Additionally, there are definitely potential networking opportunities that are involved. And so if we take a look at other services in terms of loans, in terms of lines of credit, in terms of investment advice, wealth management services for both the firm as well as partners. But as you guys well know, those successful partnerships often open up the door for many other referral opportunities. Law firms can be such a great source of those referrals. Those satisfied law clients are going to refer other professionals to you for financial services as well, and potentially even their own clients, right, when it comes to that. So then, of course, as we look at the full relationship, all of that leads to robust relationship that we're capitalized on. In the form of commercial banking, we're going to utilize all aspects of the bank for these types of relationships with commercial banking, treasury management, wealth management solutions, as well as potentially private and retail banking. So just a quick view as why the law firms make great clients, and then their capitalization on these digital tools being extremely important for driving efficiencies within their businesses. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Katherine, who will get us started in talking about getting to know the law firms.
Great. Thank you so much, Jill. So yes, I'm going to go into more depth into who law firms are and where you can find them. So we have just a very broad breakdown here of the different types of law firms: full service, mid-size, boutique, and solo practitioners. We know that overall there are 425,000 plus law firms in the United States. There are 1.3 million lawyers, and of these 1.3 million, 39% are female and 79% are white. So law firms range quite a bit in size, as you can see, and along with that, with the resources that they have internally. So there's a few law firms that are 4,000 lawyers plus that will have a large in-house staff when it comes to accounting, multiple people, probably multiple locations as well. But there's not a lot of those. Only 18% of the lawyers in the United States work at a law firm with more than 250 people. And so anything above that would really be considered the full service firms. But again, that's only a small percentage of the total firms. About 80% of the lawyers in the United States work at these mid-sized firms, boutique firms, and solo practitioners. The average number of lawyers per law firm is 2.4. So you have to understand that there are many, many more in these mid-sized and smaller segments than there are in these large full-service firms. And one thing we know about the mid-sized boutique and solo practitioners is that they don't necessarily have full-time staff dedicated to accounting or banking. This is not a priority on a day-to-day basis for the lawyers themselves. So it's going to be somebody else within the law firm that's actually managing their deposit operations on a daily basis. But the lawyers are the entry into the business relationship for sure. And the law firm or the legal services industry is huge in the United States. Last year, it was $372 billion and is predicted to grow at a rate of 2.5% over the next 7 years. So a huge industry and consistent growth, even as some firms are combining with the others, and they're facing the same challenges that all of us are as far as working situations and staffing. So just kind of a broad view to get you started there. One type of account that almost all lawyers have is a lawyer's trust account. Now, this is frequently referred to as an IOLTA account or an IOLA or an IOTA, depending on which state you would live in. And IOLTA stands for Interest on Lawyer's Trust Account. Many of you are familiar with this already, but I just wanted to describe the broad strokes of this so that you would understand what this is. So lawyers put funds into an IOLTA account if they are small or if they're going to be held too briefly to earn interest for the client. So this is a fund that every lawyer who handles money on behalf of a client is required to have. And the money the interest earned on these accounts go to the state board or the IOLTA program. They're called different things in different states, but they go to a governing body of lawyers in the state. And then the interest is used by those lawyers to fund legal aid programs. Like I said, this is very, very frequently found at all of the different law firms. Any lawyer who has to handle money on behalf of clients has to use this. So that's one account that they all have. But then there are lots and lots of other types of specialty attorneys that all have different types of escrow needs. So just as a few examples, let's see, real estate law firms handle earnest money deposits, down payments, and other funds while real estate transactions are in process. We know that corporate and business law firms handle funds during mergers and acquisitions, kind of those larger rounds of buying things, investment rounds, any kind of business sale. All money has to be held in one place that's visible for both sides until the transaction is complete. And then family law firms have to manage funds in divorces. This includes division of assets or holding funds in trust for children. There's just lots and lots of different areas that each of these have to hold money. So they all have significant pain points. And this means all law firms have significant pain points when it comes to their finances and banking specifically. One of the big areas of risk for them and of concern for lawyers and law firms is compliance and regulations. They have the same level of regulation that you face as banks and are faced with enormous reporting requirements in order for the different boards and even for their clients to understand how they're handling everything that they need to handle. So maintaining compliance, complex trust account management, efficient transaction processing, security measures, liability, and then effective cash flow management is something that is very important to them as well. We know that law firms highly value the relationships and the ability, highly value relationships, but also highly value the ability to transact digitally. But for law firms themselves, they are also just adopting digital methods for payment. And so there is an ever rising number of law firms who can accept payment online and also accept payment plans, which can help smooth out their cash flow overall. And then this all translates into what they want from a banking partner. So they need compliance and risk management help frequently. They need the specialized trust account services. Digital banking capabilities, as I mentioned, are a very high need for them, as well as easy access to capital because they will have needs for loans as well. Customer service and support, they're still very relationship driven. And then reporting and support for their IOLTA accounts is a very high priority. The IOLTA accounts are very frequently low-cost deposits, but they do come with a high level of reporting burden. And so this is attractive to banks for sure, and something that law firms really need help on. But there is a whole other level of reporting that comes with IOLTA. And Jill is going to talk a little bit more about that later when she does the demo. I see in the chat that you guys are helping each other out with sound. I really appreciate that. I appreciate knowing too that you're having problems, because this is something that I can look into with our service later. So hopefully we won't ever have that kind of problem. All right, so now I'm going to jump into ways you can reach law firms. So a few things. You guys are all experienced salespeople. I don't expect any of this to be rocket science to you, but I'm hoping there are things you can take away that will help you get into this industry specifically. And you may already have all this expertise in another industry and just need to know where to point it into the law firm industry. Just think about, before you go into these conversations, ways you can add value to the law firms overall. So this could be negotiating on transaction fees, specific help in navigating compliance requirements, any other technology that you have in place that might help them with other needs to do business easier or faster. It can help with reporting or 1031s or wire transfers. Just think about the full suite of your business before you go in and talk to these lawyers. And the best place to find them is within your current bank, right? Or your current financial institution. So you might have lawyers or law firms that have taken out loans. You might have lawyers that have personal relationships with the bank, but could be pursued to have professional relationships with the bank as well. That's just a great place to start in general. And then there are all kinds of other databases. The case law database, LinkedIn legal groups. If you are active on LinkedIn, this is a great place to find lawyers in your area or in a certain specialty. Legal directories and search engines like FindLaw or Martindale Hubbell. Legal conferences or networking events, and I'll talk a little bit more about these in a second. And then law society meetings. If you have a law school in nearby your bank at all, this can be a great place to start relationships with young lawyers who are going to start their own firms. And then court records and filings are another good place to reference. And when it comes to that networking and conferences, every state has a chapter of the American Bar Association, and frequently in larger states, there are local chapters as well. So these nearly always have some kind of conference or attend some kind of regional conference every year. These are places that you can go to meet lawyers and also sponsor events or see if there's a topic that you could speak on and bring a banking perspective to, or a small business owner perspective to. Small business owner, perspective to. The International Bar Association is another great networking opportunity, as well as the National Association for Law Placement, Association of Legal Administrators can also be good, and the Federal Bar Association. So it's as easy as typing any of these into your browser and searching for the one that kind of oversees your area or is active in your area, and then getting involved there. The local Chamber of Commerce is also a great place to reach out to. You'll frequently find lawyers there doing community service work, and also just reaching out to the community to garner business in the same way that you are. So that can be a really good place to connect with them there. Also, boards of charitable organizations, or just being active in any kind of charitable organization. Lawyers frequently get involved with pro bono work or board work for those types of organizations as well. And then as far as the things you can do to create visibility, this is really where you can think about what you have to offer, or just the perspective that you have that might be unique to somebody in the law space, or another kind of small business gathering. So offering to speak at industry events, sponsoring continuing education classes, anything that you can do to get your name and institution in front of these lawyers is going to be valuable. You can also reach out to the State Bar Association to see if they have a list of preferred vendors that you could get on. That's another great way to get in front of lawyers. Or I know in Texas, the state where I live, there's also a preferred list of IOLTA providers. And so you can engage with the IOLTA board in Texas to become a preferred vendor for IOLTAs specifically. And so that is another avenue that you can research in order to become just kind of a better partner to them in a lot of different ways. All right, and I'm going to turn it back over to Jill to talk about meeting their needs.
Thanks, Katherine. Once you are able to go out and grab the prospects, what do we need to do to ensure that you're meeting the needs of those of this segment? There's a lot of, good information here in terms of having the tools necessary to help them. One of the things that I want to focus on with this part of the conversation is going to be the compliance aspect. And so here's what we know about regulation as it pertains to IOLTA funds. Number one is that every single state has an IOLTA program. Whether or not it's mandatory is up to the state level. So all the regulations are different. And most of the guidelines when it comes to IOLTA accounts are standard by the American Bar Association, but it's closely followed by each state bar. So much like the FDIC, when they put out a regulation, the state regulators really follow those guidelines. The same holds true when it comes to the American Bar Association. And then most jurisdictions require law firms to address three primary areas to comply with IOLTA regulations. So these three things are very consistent across all of the states. One, which we already know, is that funds must be deposited into an account specifically labeled as a trust client account. So whether that's an FBO account or however that's managed, it's a third-party escrow account and has to be labeled as such. Number two, those funds must be completely segregated from the lawyer or firm's own funds. So those operating accounts, all of that general escrow needs to be kept in one account or many accounts, and the IOLTA funds have to be completely segregated. And then number three, which is consistent across all states, is that law firms must create and maintain appropriate records of funds belonging to their clients. So they've got to make sure that they are keeping all of those records, keeping it separate from all of those clients that they have. Now, where do the differentiations get into? And that third bullet point is really important, right? That's the thing that we can really hang our hat on when it comes to differentiating ourselves with the ZScrow platform. So where do we see the most differentiation in states? That's all the consistent things. Couple things, some of the states allow fees to be charged on those deposits. So they may have minimum balance requirements, but they do allow the attorneys to charge their clients fees in some states. The location of the bank account is important. So similar to the property management vertical, oftentimes in the state, they will mandate that those funds be held in a bank that has an office in the state of the jurisdiction of that firm. And so that's going to be pretty important to where they bank. Fees incurred by the bank cannot be charged to the client's account. So while you have the ability to charge fees on the IOLTA account, it can absolutely not be charged to that IOLTA fund. So account analysis is going to be pretty important when it comes to generating that non-interest income. And then again, record retention period may be different for each state. So while it's consistent that they do have to maintain separate records for each of their IOLTA accounts, it's going to depend on the state of what that term is. And so I'll give you an example. The legal requirement in the state of Massachusetts for lawyers is that they're required to retain all bank account information on IOLTA accounts, including transactions, balances, statements, for a period of 7 years. Okay, so each state may have a different term and what they're requiring for those needs, but there is a need to make sure that they have all that information. And ZScrow is obviously a great tool to make sure that they've got all of that detail consolidated into one spot, making that auditing super easy. And so before we get into the demo, one of the things that just wanted to share is a couple of qualifying questions to help when speaking with those attorneys and with those prospects to get your foot in the door. The final question I think is really key, and especially about those bullets that we just talked about, is how do you currently ensure you're compliant with state and federal regulation? They may be, they may not be. And this might be a way to get your foot in the door, to give them that peace of mind, to make sure that they have all of the reporting tools right at their fingertips. So let's go ahead and get into the demo now. And I'm going to show you a few things here. Okay, so what you are currently looking at is our demo environment. What you already know, right? All of you on the call already understand all of the great things that the ZEscrow platform provides, which is a self-serve digital tool for your attorneys to provide seamless account opening, closing, money movement, and really driving those efficiencies for the law firm, but also yourself. So I'm not going to get into kind of showing the workflows of how that works, but instead really focus on the pieces of the platform that are really going to help drive those efficiencies for law firms and make sure that they're compliant within the state that they reside. So one of the first things that I want to touch on is that while the platform is definitely self-serve, right? The whole reason to have that is so that your attorneys are handling all of their IOTA accounts themselves, all of their general escrow accounts themselves. But you do have high touch, or you will have high touch attorneys that you're working with that will say, you know, at one point, and maybe they do everything themselves, but maybe they find themselves going out of town. They forgot to open up an account. They forgot that they've got a wire coming in and needs to be assigned to one of their IOTA accounts that they have. And then they call you to help you manage that. When you have that high touch client, obviously you have the ability to come in and help them as well. And so from a servicing perspective, you have all of the same capabilities as your attorney, so you can get in and provide those functions yourself, which is really great. One of the other things that I think is really cool is that you could have attorneys that potentially will have a need for general escrow as well as IOTA. And in that case, the platform can handle both, right? Even though we've got to keep IOTA segregated and we got to keep those funds separated from the operating account, they can manage both within the system. And when they log in, they would have the opportunity to see their general funds, and then they would have the opportunity to see their IOTA funds. Additionally, by keeping those IOTA funds separate, we have the capabilities with the platform to help you with the interest component of the IOTA accounts. So you will have to send that interest off to the state boards, as you well know, and we have the capability to help you with that interest process to make it extremely seamless, where we're sweeping out that interest for you, so then you can go ahead and send that to the IOTA boards, which is pretty great. Additionally, we do provide specialized account structure. I think all of you know that the client success team here at ZSuite works hand in hand with you from a sales support standpoint. And so when we're on the phone with you, when we're doing those ride-along demos, we have the ability to work with them to make sure that the account structure is specialized for them, meeting all of their needs, making sure that all of their transactions are handled in a timely manner. And so we do have that capability as well. Now let's pop into one of these just to show you the fun organizational activity. So we've got our folders over here, which on a general escrow perspective allows the end user to organize all of their escrow needs right here. So in order to add another folder, so let's say they just started getting into estates and we want to manage that, we'll go ahead and just add another folder here so that they can start adding sub-accounts right within their main landing page. So the organizational ability to keep everything separate and organized by sub-account is going to be really easy for them to do. They can customize it for whatever works best for their firm. And then finally, the biggest thing that I want to touch on when we're talking about the demo here is to really hone in on that piece from a regulatory standpoint that is talking about the retention of the records. Because what I was surprised about when I was researching this and looking into it was that, yeah, we know that they've got to keep statements for 7 years and they have to keep all of this activity for 7 years. But when it comes down to specific transactions and balances, that could get pretty cumbersome if they're going through an audit. And so having the robust reporting tools kind of at their fingertips when it comes to making sure that they have everything on hand for retention, we have here the sub-account activity report for their use, which outlines their account number, the folder path, which gives the category of where these funds are supposed to be, the sub-account name, as well as open and close dates, average balances, as well as some interest information. And now when we're thinking about, IOLTA interest is obviously being swept out, that interest is going to be located over here. However, you can see here in this particular report, we do have the opportunities to split interest potentially between the law firm as well as their client, or provide a way for them to push all of their interest to their beneficiary. We can even get down to the sub-account level from that interest configuration. And so it doesn't have to be all or nothing. At different sub-accounts, they can have different splits where 100% for one sub-account is going to the beneficiary. The next sub-account, maybe 100% is going to the law firm. All of that capability is available within the tool for any organization that is utilizing it. Another report that is extremely valuable is what we call our balance report. You can see here a lot of this information is what the data points that are on a statement. And so we do have that available here from a reporting standpoint, helps with mid-month reconciliation tools. And then also we have a transaction report. So any transaction that happens within the platform, whether it's funding, closeouts, transfers out, interest reporting, all of that, new account opening, all of that is going to be in this transaction report available for the end user use. I think the biggest key here is going to be the fact that we provide the ability to enter in a date range so that, again, in the case of an audit, they can go back and look at whatever time frame they need to in order to satisfy the requirements that they need to in order to pass that audit. And each report is definitely exportable for the end user. I'll leave you with one story. I was doing a demo for an attorney actually in the state of New Jersey. And we were going through these reporting tools and he was throwing out questions of, well, can I find this and can I find that? And his final comment was, I was just audited. And if I would have had something like this, it would have saved me weeks of work of tracking down this particular information, because everything he would have needed for that audit for his IOLTA program in particular would have been right here for him, that he could have just come in and easily found all of that information, inclusive of the statements, right? And so that's a big component from an audit standpoint as well, to make sure that they can come in and grab all of the statements. Now, the cool part about that as well is that in this PDF file are going to be individual statements for each one of the accounts that are on the platform. And additionally, we could even drive down to provide that beneficiary statement on an ongoing basis and deliver it right to the platform in the sub-account record. So lots of ways to abide by that regulation in terms of keeping those reports, those statements on file for, in the state of Massachusetts, 7 years. And I'm sure other states have similar retention requirements from a data standpoint.
Great. Thanks, Jill. And we do have one question, which leads nicely into our next section, which is just, guys, it's just questions. So does the system allow for record retention beyond the 7 years? You want to answer that?
Yeah, so at this point, it is just 7 years, but our platform has been live and in market for 3 now. So if there is a need to go beyond that 7 years, we're definitely open to that conversation.
Great. Does anybody else have any questions about any of the material we covered? I'm happy to go back to slides or I know Jill would open up the demo again if anyone wants to see anything else. It's like a couple people are typing in. I will just go to our next slide just to let you know we have created some one-sheeters to help you distill the most important information from this webinar and just, kind of an easy desk reference if you want that. So we have a law firm information sheet, which is just kind of the overview of who law firms are and where they are. And then we have a solution overview that goes more into detail on how ZEscrow works for law firms. And because IOLTAs is such a big deal, we broke out a separate one on how ZEscrow works for IOLTAs. So great, we have a few questions in here. So let me track back through these. Brittany said, we have a lot of attorneys ask how ZEscrow works along with their law firm software.
So today we do not have any integrations that are available to connect the two pieces of software. But that said, if you want to begin that conversation, if you have a large group of law firms that is using the same software and there's a use case to provide an API between the two of them, let's open the door and have that conversation. So just reach out to me and happy to jump on a call with our CTO and kind of work through that and see if there's something that we can help with.
Yeah. And I will say too, just to echo that, we love to hear that because we love to hear what the market wants. And so if there are specific softwares they're talking about, especially, we'd love to hear which ones those are.
Yeah.
There's a couple of questions about resources. So we will be sending out the webinar and the link or the email that has the webinar recording in it will also have links to the webpage where you can download all of these different resources. So you will get these after the presentation. Colleen asked, what's the best way to bring this product up to an existing customer? Do we have any conversation openers? And I'll say on the back of the law firm solution overview, so the one in the middle in front of you on the upper screen here, we do have some, well, we call them qualifying questions, but they could be used as openers in any of those conversations with lawyers as well. Jill, do you want to say anything else to that?
Yeah, no, I think that's right, Catherine. I think it's a matter of understanding all of the law firms that you work with and if there's specific use cases for each one. So I would say, the IOLTA conversation is obviously going to be different than general escrow. But again, we're happy to, once you have that information compiled, our success team is happy to jump on a call with you and strategize what the best way is to go out and reach those clients. So whether that's, customized communication, a customized webinar that we can help you with your bank specifically, where we invite those lawyers and just have a great conversation, a Q&A conversation, and show them the demo. We're happy to do that from, in a sales support standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Stephanie asked, I think property management. Hang on, I just lost it. Do you offer demos for lawyers? I think Jill just answered that, but
yeah, of course. If you don't have a link to our bookings calendar, just reach out to me and we'll get that in your hands so that you can schedule some demos with us. Because we'll do individual demos with any prospect that you have. But of course, it would be great, with your existing client base, if we want to set up, more of a webinar experience, we're happy to support and facilitate that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tamika asked, is there a specialized demo available specifically for law firms? Do you mean a recording, Tamika, or could you clarify if you mean recording or an in-person piece? Okay, she's going to answer, and I think I missed one back here. Oh, Beth is asking about consolidated reporting in one place. If they have accounts at other banks, can they see those accounts as well? Do you mean ZScrow accounts, Beth? Or you mean just any kinds of accounts for the law firm?
Both questions would be the same answer, Catherine. So they would not be able to see other ZScrow accounts with their ZScrow instance with your bank, but then also visible in ZEscrow software is just their escrow accounts. It's not going,
Right.
it's not going to link in their online banking accounts, but there is the rolled up balance that will show the entire balance of what they have in escrow.
Okay, so we have a couple questions there then now about a ZEscrow demo that is specific to law firms. We can make one of those. We don't have one right now is the answer, but we can definitely make one. Great. Oh, okay. I scroll back up. Brittany asked about API integration. So does this mean, so does no API integration currently mean that if a law firm is using a law firm software program like Juris, they are not likely to utilize ZEscrow, or does it just mean that they have to manually upload ZEscrow reports into their law firm software to reconcile? This is the main resistance there.
Yeah, it's the latter. So we do have law firms that are utilizing our software in conjunction with other software, obviously, to manage their cases and all of that. We don't have an integration built today. Doesn't mean that if you don't have, if there's a market opportunity for your bank, obviously, same answer, get in touch with me, and we're happy to have those conversations. And sometimes what we'll find is when we're having that discussion and that's kind of a deal breaker with the attorney, we can still get the IOLTA funds over to manage those separately from what they're doing over here. And that might be a way to help them, grab those IOLTA funds while we have that conversation to see if there's any potential for an API integration with their current software.
Great. Brian asked, we currently use ZEscrow primarily for property management clients. Can you talk about specific differences, if there are any, between when it's used for property management versus law firms, such as would the account opening process, prompting for a W-8 or W-9, account letters being mailed, interest posting on calendar at year end be the same?
Yep, great question. So the platform is functionality-wise works the same regardless of vertical. And so the cool part about it is that how to use it. The opening account workflow is the same. Closed account workflow is the same. Transferring funds in is the same. The difference is going to be opting in to those certain other capabilities. And so when you say account notifications for property management, that's something that we wouldn't turn on for attorneys with their general escrow or IOLTAs. We can manage interest separately. And so you heard me talk a little bit about the interest sweeps that we do for IOLTAs to make it easy for you all to send that interest out to the state boards. And so there's different tweaks that we have for each vertical. However, the look and feel is the same. The reporting is the same. The statements are the same. All of that, regardless of the vertical that you're looking at.
Great. Oh, additionally, can statements be generated specifically on a sub level rather than on a master account level? If so, how?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that is something that you just need to let us know. And we can, so in that main file is going to be, that is on the main landing page, is going to be the summary statement, as well as individual sub-account statements will be included in that file. But additionally, if you would like, we have the capability to put those individual sub-beneficiary statements in the sub-account record. And so there would be two places for that, but it would just be that individual statement there, and we can absolutely handle that for you.
All right. I think you might have a couple more questions coming, but I wanted to just put these up in front of you guys. So you can always reach Jill directly or reach out to the client success team at clientsuccess@zsuitetech.com. And then the two main places for more resources from this call are Who Are Law Firms and Law Firm Solution Overview. And again, these links are also going to be in the email that we send out. It doesn't look like they're, oh, great. There's another question. Good feedback. It would be helpful to show in the law firm demo the IOLTA account functionality, as well as others, to show law firm clients there are many uses for ZEscrow and get them thinking about transactions. Great feedback, Brittany. And reporting features too. Yeah, this is really good feedback. We always appreciate feedback. We always want to be making our product better. and, you know, easier for you to use and sell. So I really appreciate the feedback. There will be a short survey in the form that goes, or the email that goes out after this webinar, where if you have any other feedback or anything else that you think would be helpful for us from a product perspective, we would love to hear it. So thanks so much for your time today, everybody. Thank you, Jill, as always. Have a great rest of the day, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.